Welcome back to Lowkey English, everyone. Today, we're tackling what is arguably the most important and often the most feared question in any language. Tell me about yourself. It's your first impression, your pitch, your chance to shine. Whether it's in an interview, a classroom, or, a new social setting. Here to help us master this phrase is the experienced teacher and language consultant, Michael Davis. Michael, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure, Chloe. This question is a gift, not a trap. The interviewer is essentially saying, please give me the highlights reel. The problem is most learners give them the full-length documentary, including the boring parts. We're here to teach them how to edit that film.
I love that analogy. Let's start with the big picture. Why is this question so difficult for non-native speakers, even those with good grammar? What's the core issue?
Well, it's a confidence issue first, but then it's a structure issue. In many cultures, talking about yourself is considered, impolite or boasting, so students hesitate. When they do speak, they lack the clear Western structure, the kind that says, here's the point, here's the evidence, and here's why it matters to you. We need to give them that framework.
That's a great segue into our first major section, the formal introduction. Let's focus on the high-stakes scenarios, a job interview or a university admission interview. What's the Michael Davis 5-point formula for this context? The quick version.
My formula is simple, Chloe. It has 5 points: role, history, success, value, and bridge, and it must be delivered in under 120 seconds. First, you state your current role or identity. For example, I am a data analyst specializing in supply chain efficiency.
Okay, that's point 1. What's next?
Next is history. You briefly mention your relevant professional timeline. You might say, I've been in the field for 7 years, starting with a focus on logistics. After that comes success. You need to give a quantifiable, specific success story. Maybe, in my last role, I built a predictive model that cut our inventory waste by 20%.
So those 3 points establish the context and the achievement. What are the final 2?
The fourth point is value. This is where you explain your core strength. You could phrase it like this: my strength is translating complex data into actionable strategies for non-technical teams. And finally, you have the bridge. You connect all of that directly to the opportunity. You close by saying, and that's the value I'm excited to bring to your dynamic new team here at Stellar Corp. That full structure is your pitch.
That is incredibly concise. Let's talk about the language within that structure. For the success point, you stressed the use of quantifiable data. What specific vocabulary helps highlight achievements and professionalism? The power words.
This is where we use power verbs and professional nouns. Avoid passive words like helped or worked on. Use strong verbs instead. Instead of I worked on a project, say I spearheaded a project or I implemented a system. Other strong words include streamlined, drove, pioneered, and delivered.
So we're aiming for something like, I streamlined our reporting process, which delivered a 10% efficiency gain.
Exactly. That sounds confident, accurate, and professional. It tells the listener you deliver results, not just effort. And don't forget the present perfect tense here. It's your best friend. I have been managing these teams for 3 years. It links the past experience directly to your current expertise,
That is a great summary of the professional side. Now let's move to a completely different context, the casual introduction. Think new classmates, meeting your partner's family, or a social gathering where you have to introduce yourself. How should the structure and the language shift?
The shift is from competence to connection. No one wants your 90-second professional pitch at a party. The goal is to make the other person comfortable and find common ground.
So what's the structure for a casual setting?
Keep it short, say around 30 seconds. It's a 3-part structure: who, what, and the hook. First, state your who, your name and origin. Then mention what you do with a very brief casual mention of your work or study. Maybe, I work in marketing, but honestly, that's not what I like talking about.
And what is the hook?
The hook is the most crucial element. It's a piece of conversational bait, a hobby, a current interest, or a casual observation. You might say, I'm trying to learn how to bake sourdough bread, or I'm obsessed with the new sci-fi series on Netflix.
I love the hook. That immediately gives the other person an easy way to respond. What kind of language should learners focus on here, to sound low-key and casual?
They should focus on phrasal verbs and idioms. This is the language of natural casual English. Instead of saying, I like to relax, use the phrasal verb, I like to hang out with my friends. Instead of saying, I'm searching for good places to eat, say, I'm trying to check out all the best sushi places in the area. That is, low-key, natural language.
And what about the classic, slightly awkward response when someone asks where you live and you just give the city name? How can a learner expand that into a small conversational block?
That's a great functional language point. Instead of just saying, I live in Boston, try this. I'm currently based out of Boston, specifically in the North End. I love it there because I can just pop into a great Italian restaurant whenever I want. You've used a phrasal verb, based out of, and a slightly less common one, pop into, and you've given them a small piece of personal flavor.
That makes a huge difference. Now, let's tackle the elephant in the room, pronunciation and delivery. A perfect script is useless if the delivery sounds shaky or confusing. Michael, what are the two biggest mistakes learners make with their voice and pace?
The two biggest mistakes are speaking too fast and using flat intonation. When we're nervous, we speed up, and that makes us sound even more nervous. When you deliver your tell me about yourself answer, you must slow down and practice strategic pausing.
Can you illustrate that? Where should a speaker intentionally pause during the formal pitch?
You want to pause after a main clause and before you deliver the most important piece of information. For example, listen to the difference here. I am an experienced digital marketer, pause, and my primary expertise is in search engine optimization, pause, which has consistently delivered a 40% return on investment for my clients. That pause is key.
That pause adds weight and authority. It makes you sound confident and in control. What about intonation? How can a learner use pitch to highlight key information?
Well, English is a stress-timed language. We stress the content words, the nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. You must stress the words that carry the meaning. For example, if you just stress the small words, I am a project manager with 5 years of experience, the listener doesn't really get the point.
Right.
But if you stress the key information, I am a project manager with 5 years of experience, then you've communicated the most important facts immediately. Practicing raising your pitch slightly on those stressed words makes you sound engaged and ensures the listener catches the most important information, which is vital.
That is such a low-key, practical way to improve delivery overnight. Let's move to our final section, the transition and the follow-up. This is how you stop talking about yourself and start a conversation.
Never end your introduction on a full stop. Always end it with a question that gives the ball back to the listener. This is called the bridge question. It shows you're a good communicator who's, interested in the other person.
Let's look at 3 different bridge questions for 3 different scenarios. What works for the job interview?
You need to show interest in the job itself. So your bridge question for a job interview could be, my background is mostly in predictive analysis, which is why I was so interested in the scope of this new role. Could you tell me a little more about how that specific team fits into the larger company structure? What are the goals?
Excellent. It's an intelligent question that shows research. What about the bridge question in a networking or formal social event?
Go for something that shows you value their perspective. So your bridge question for networking would be, that's what I've been working on. I know that you've been at the company for a while now. What's the most exciting development you've seen here over the last 6 months, in your opinion?
And finally, for that casual social situation, maybe at a new gym or a cooking class.
Keep it simple, personal, and reciprocal. So your bridge question for a casual setting is, so that's me in a nutshell. I'd love to hear what brings you here today and what's the main thing you're hoping to get out of this class, you know?
Michael, this has been an incredibly comprehensive breakdown of the tell me about yourself question, from the professional 5-point pitch to the casual phrasal verbs and even the crucial points on intonation and pausing. You've given our listeners the tools to ace this question in any scenario. Thank you so much for your insights. It's truly helpful.
It was my absolute pleasure, Chloe. Remember, everyone, preparation takes the terror out of the delivery. Practice these structures and you'll find your confidence instantly improved.